Hello and welcome to another special bonus episode of Damn Interesting Week. Depending on your viewpoint, this bonus episode might be about childhood gifts as a thematic follow-up to the previous episode about birthdays. Or it might be about multinational corporations with questionable politics monetizing childhood through addictive products. I could honestly go either way. One thing I am sure about, though, is that this episode and all the ones going forward are now going to be available on YouTube as well as all the traditional locations. So if you happen to be a person who prefers to get their audio through YouTube, that's an option now. If not, ignore all this. You don't have to change a thing. Unlike Lego and Disney, who have had to change a few things over the last 100 years, and we're going to talk about it. My name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And these were some damn interesting weeks.
First link. From The Guardian. Listen, Lego tried their best, but they have, in fact, abandoned an effort to make bricks from recycled plastic bottles. They tried to make it work. It just couldn't. So pour one out for them, but also don't pour one out for them because stepping on a Lego is a special kind of hell. Right.
Yeah.
Now, this Danish company makes billions of Lego pieces a year, and in 2021 began researching a potential transition to recycled polyethylene terephthalate, or PETs, from acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, or ABS. But Tim Brooks, Lego's head of sustainability, referred to how the non-oil-based material was softer and demanded extra ingredients for durability, as well as greater energy for processing and drying. And not only that, the level of disruption to the manufacturing environment was such that we needed to change everything in our factories to scale up recycled PET use. So after all that, the carbon footprint would have been way higher. And yeah, he's quoted as saying, "This is disappointing." Now, the company said in 2021 it had more than 150 people working on sustainability. But Lego's chief executive, Niels Christensen, told the Financial Times the toy maker tested hundreds and hundreds of materials, but could not find a magic material to solve sustainability issues. So what are they going to do instead? Well, they're going to aim to make part of each ABS more sustainable by incorporating more bio-based and recycled material. So they're going to triple their spending on sustainability to about $3 billion a year.
Wow.
And they're promising not to pass on these higher costs to consumers, which, you know, as far as a failure goes, could have been worse.
Right, and because Legos are already expensive.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of stuff like that where, like, recycling makes you feel good, but, like, something like 80% of recycled material just ends up in the landfill anyway, and you're looking at all the extra trucks on the road to pick up the recycle. It's like, you meant well, but you actually didn't help the problem at all.
Right. Like, I appreciate them owning up and saying, hey, we got to pivot and take a loss here, as opposed to continuing to perform sustainability, which is way more damaging going forward.
Right. Yeah, we'll give them credit for that at least.
I mean, they're Legos. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
War on Legos? Nah.
No one takes on Legos.
Nobody works.
That's like being against Mr. Rogers. It's just a bad move. You can't.
It is, but, you know, war on Disney has already happened. That veil has been pierced.
I mean, not to, justify any of the Florida crap, but Disney's not exactly known for
wholesomeness.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's another podcast for another time.
Right. Exactly.
All right, next link.
Next link.
All right, any of y'all still play with Lego?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I still have mine.
I will admit, I was never really that into them as a kid, but I have very much enjoyed watching the new Lego Masters competition show with Will Arnett.
Oh,
have y'all seen it?
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, aside from the beautiful sculptures, it's very wholesome, right? You know, the contestants are very much like, I did come here to make friends. But as someone who is not especially versed in Lego history and trivia, I personally learned a lot from this next article, which is actually a video from Phil Edwards on YouTube called Why Lego Won. And it's addressing what is apparently a known semi-scandal out there that Lego may or may not have stolen their original design.
Oh.
Yeah. So we start back in the 1930s in England, where a man named Hilary Page founded a toy company called Kittycraft. Originally, they were just importing wooden toys from Russia, but Page was dissatisfied with wood as a material and really wanted to go in the direction of this newfangled thing called plastic, which he considered to be both safer and more hygienic than wood. So in 1936, he introduced a new line of Kittycraft sensible toys, including the self-locking building brick, for which he received a patent in 1947. And if you watch the video and take a look at one of these things, it is absolutely recognizable as a Lego brick. It's got the studs on top, the hollow bottom, the right proportions, and they came in multicolored sets with instructions for different things you could make out of them, including not just buildings, but people, giraffes, all the creative things you might think of building with Lego today. So Kittycraft and their bricks definitely existed, but here's where things get a little dicey. And by the way, a lot of what I'm about to tell you, I actually went and dug up on Wikipedia because the video at this point swings very pro-Lego, to the point that I felt like they were deliberately skimming over some pretty important stuff and was like, what aren't you telling me? So there are two versions of the story. One comes from the official Lego website, which acknowledges Kittycraft as the original inspiration for their bricks, but says that the company contacted Page in the late 1950s to ask if he would mind if Lego made a similar product, and they say he said, sure, no problem. Kittycraft stands, on the other hand, say that Lego was given the design on the sly by a third party who built Kittycraft's first injection molding machine, and that Lego got a literal copy of the exact same machine.
That feels more likely.
Yeah, it does. They say that Lego started selling their version immediately in Denmark, and that Page was totally unaware that the Lego toy company was making a knockoff of his product until Lego arrived in the UK in 1959. Which does match up with Lego's version of the story, but it's like, you didn't just suddenly pop into the UK, you were selling this for decades in your country, and they don't really want to talk about that part. Regardless, though, of where the truth lies in all that, what we do know for sure is that there was a settlement in 1981 in which Lego paid Kittycraft £45,000, or roughly $200,000 today, to acquire all, quote, remaining rights to the concept. And one of the complicating factors in this, and we have to assume, I think, part of the reason that Kittycraft got such a relatively small amount of money considering, is that by 1959, Lego had significantly improved on the design to the point that they had acquired their own patent that is distinct from the Kittycraft blocks. Specifically, they had added the interior structure, meaning those little tube shapes you can see on the underside. Kittycraft's bricks, and again, it should be pointed out, the original Lego bricks, were completely hollow. And because of this, they didn't stick together nearly as well. They were also prone to warping over time. So this video is obviously contending that these structural improvements made all the difference, and that without them, Lego never would have become the juggernaut that it is today, so they should be allowed to take credit for that. The video also spends a fair amount of time talking about Lego's marketing strategy, which took things in a unique direction as well. Because Lego used to be a general toy company, and it wasn't until Gottfried Kirk Christensen took over in 1957 that he ditched everything else and made the bricks their sole product. He said, these aren't automatic binding bricks made by Lego, these are the Lego system. And we're not going to sell you one kit to use your imagination on. We're going to sell different kits with exactly the right bricks to build one thing while still pushing the idea that you could use your imagination because all these kits you buy will work together. And the whole time he was doing this, Kittycraft was still just selling their one inferior brick kit while trying to maintain all these other product lines for toddlers and get into dollhouse miniatures, and they ultimately went bankrupt because of it. So I do think it's certainly fair to say that Lego did a better job of it than Kittycraft did or ever would have, but it's also pretty undeniable that for the first couple of decades at least, Lego was 100% using a stolen design.
And then there was that competitor also, were they Clicky Toys? Cookies?
I don't know.
Remember those? They were almost Lego. They were very close to Lego, made by a competitor. I remember getting a bunch of those, and they didn't match.
Oh.
Yeah, so you would try to use them. I mean, you know, first world problems, but
Right.
But as a child to encounter that, oof.
Well, and they still have a lot of competitors today on a much smaller scale, obviously. Well, literally, to a certain degree, they have mini bricks, which I happen to know you can get knockoffs from China. And they all fit with each other, and they're great little prizes for children if you happen to need that. But yeah, the concept of interlocking bricks, you have to have some sort of different interior that makes them grippy to each other. But that is what the patent is. Other than that, you can make interlocking brick products and not be stepping on Lego's toes. Of course, they're a little bit like Disney. They have a lot of money. Maybe they decide what is stepping on their toes. Next link.
Next
link.
Okay, the Smithsonian Magazine is going to take us on a small little detour around how Disney propaganda shaped life on the home front during World War II.
Ooh.
Are you guys aware of some of the propaganda films or efforts that Disney made during the time?
I know they made them.
Yeah, I know about Dr. Seuss. I didn't know about Disney.
Oh, yeah. And they have a little bit of Dr. Seuss in here. But if you have the time, I highly recommend going to check out the article itself because they have embedded some of the actual animated shorts that are really difficult to find, in part because Disney doesn't like to talk about this a whole lot.
Sure.
If you can
I can imagine.
So Donald Duck was the biggest Disney star at the time. He wore khakis as a United States Army recruit. Minnie Mouse recycled leftover bacon grease to make explosives. Wow, America. And even though World War II essentially saved the Disney studio from financial ruin, Disney has long been reluctant to revisit its wartime history. It's not a story the company tells, says Kirsten Komorowski, the executive director of the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. Nevertheless, this little-known chapter in entertainment history unfolds in this new exhibition. It's called The Walt Disney Studios and World War II. You can see it at the Museum of Flight in Seattle, and it has 550 photos, drawings, prints, and video clips that demonstrate how Disney artists turned their energies from fantasy fare to propaganda. The Disney lot in Burbank, California, was converted into a military base almost overnight. All it took was a phone call from Washington, D.C. to order the company to make room for 500 personnel from an anti-aircraft unit.
Wow.
Around 700 actually showed up with vehicles, communications, camouflage, and 3 million rounds of ammunition in tow. And Disney also signed a $90,000 Navy contract, agreeing to make 20 training films on topics like how to spot enemy planes. The home of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs soon saw uniformed soldiers marching down the studio's dopey drive. And then by 1943, upward of 90% of Disney's work was related to the war effort.
Wow.
And, despite viewing himself as a patriot, company co-founder Walt initially had some misgivings about politicizing his product. According to Wallace Duell, a member of the Wartime's coordinator office, he told a Treasury Department official, quote, Disney is fearful of being labeled as a propagandist in the public mind, with consequent damage to his reputation as a whimsical, non-political artist. So it was pragmatic as well as patriotic motives that fueled Disney's eventual wartime involvement. Even though we see these movies as popular today, Fantasia, Pinocchio, and Bambi all logged early box office losses upon their release. In Europe, the war had all but closed movie theaters, which shrunk the global markets. And at home, Dumbo narrowly missed being named Time Magazine's 1941 Mammal of the Year, which was a play on the magazine's Person of the Year franchise. But then Pearl Harbor happened, and Dumbo got bumped off the cover in favor of General Douglas MacArthur. So if war was getting to be a problem for Disney, naturally converting to wartime production was kind of a solution. So what exactly did Disney do? Well, they designed emblems for the military. They produced propaganda films and lent its iconic characters' likenesses to different government agencies, among other activities. The studio provided training films and educational shorts. They even had Disney-designed nose art, like characters from Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, on aircraft fuselage. I know I've seen them before, but I didn't realize that some of them were like licensed and sanctioned. But
Right. They were legally put there. There wasn't like Calvin peeing on a truck where some dude did it. It was like...
Exactly. It was legit. And Bethany Bemis, a scholar at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, whose research focuses on Disney's impact on American culture, she's quoted as saying, the insignia were extremely effective for Disney as a morale booster. Essentially, they were a reminder of home that soldiers got to carry into battle. But it may have coalesced in 1943 when Der Führer's Face, which is a cartoon starring Donald Duck, it's kind of the centerpiece of the exhibition, and it is linked in the article where you can see it in its entirety, which I highly recommend. Basically, it shows Donald Duck stuck in a nightmare where he's forced to toil in a German arms factory and is forced to repeatedly salute fascist leaders. If you've ever wanted to hear Donald Duck say Heil Hitler, it's in the animation. And he has this like swastika-laden alarm clock. It shows how the creature comforts are few and far between. He tries to sneak a cup of coffee, which is verboten. He gnaws on a terrible slice of bread. He sprays a little bacon and egg scented perfume in his mouth to savor something nice. It's got a marching band featuring Axis musicians with what the article calls exaggerated facial features. But y'all, it's yeah. But they're saying Heil, Heil, right into Führer's face. It's insane.
Wow.
He basically starts hallucinating that the bombshells he's assembling turn into snakes and musical instruments, kind of in line with sort of the Dadaist stuff that you find in like Fantasia or some of their other early trippy stuff. But finally, Donald wakes up in his own bed, clad in stars and striped pajamas, because of course. And then he hugs his model Statue of Liberty and declares, "Am I glad to be a citizen of the United States of America?" Okay, it's heavy-handed, right? It was definitely influenced by Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times and The Great Dictator, but it won the 1943 Oscar for Best Short Subject Cartoon. So, you know, it's insane the level of effort and product that Disney contributed. And if we were to see these kinds of short films on Disney Plus, spoiler alert, you probably won't.
No.
But they would come with a warning that kind of primes you for what you're going to see is not woke at all.
Right. A product of its time.
A product of its time, but certainly worth the look-see.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to kind of think about, like, what Disney was for them back then. Like, we think of it as like, oh, well, that's for, like, really little kids. But, like, can you imagine if somehow, it's like, if they put Pickle Rick on a bomb, like, soldiers would think that was awesome.
You know,
So
they
I
are having a
get
lot
it.
of trouble recruiting right now, so a partnership with Rick and Morty might do the trick.
Like, that's what I'm
Hey!
saying. I think, like, if you get into the mindset of, like, this was entertainment for them legitimately. So, like, I don't know. I can see it if I put it in that light, you know?
That was almost too real.
Right. You're like, no, they're going to do that now. Stop it.
Yeah. Don't let them hear us.
Right.
Next link.
Next link.
All right. This next article from Live Science is called 5 Million Shipwrecked Legos Still Washing Up 25 Years After Falling Overboard.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll save you the math. The date was February 13th, 1997. And the cargo ship Tokyo Express was sailing from the Netherlands, where not all but many Legos are made, to New York to drop off the shipment. So they were headed southwest through the English Channel, and just as they were rounding the south of England and were about to head out into the open sea, what's known as a rogue wave struck the ship about 20 miles off the coast of western Cornwall. And scientists actually thought for a long time that rogue waves were just like a maritime legend. Like, they didn't believe they existed, because the idea of a random single wave that is dozens of feet high and may even be traveling in the opposite direction of normal wave activity just seemed too weird to be true. They're like, that doesn't happen. Physics is physics. But in recent decades, they have been confirmed, though they remain almost impossible to predict. So the wave that struck the Tokyo Express first tilted it 60 degrees in one direction and then 40 degrees back in the other, causing 62 shipping containers to fall off into the ocean. And, you know, the truth is that happens more than most people think, and the containers usually just sink to the bottom and are written off. But if the products inside a particular shipping container happen to float, you get a whole different scenario. And indeed, most Lego bricks do float. The ship's manifest listed just under 5 million Lego pieces that were lost at sea, of which exactly 3,178,807 were light enough to float, which is an insane piece of data to keep on the manifest, but apparently they did. The event soon became known as the Great Lego Spill, as brightly colored pieces of plastic began washing up on Cornwall beaches shortly after the accident, and even now, 25 years later, they're still showing up. Ironically, many of the Lego pieces were nautical themed, including tiny octopuses, little life jackets, scuba tanks, and pirate accessories. And people were honestly charmed by it. There was this whole community of beachgoers that built up around collecting these pieces. There's a Lego Lost at Sea Facebook group. The woman who runs it, Tracy Williams, recently wrote a book called Adrift, The Curious Case of the Lego Lost at Sea. And having pored over the exact contents of the manifest, they've also been able to build a hierarchy of which pieces are rarest.
Naturally.
So since then, the BBC has now mapped more than 40 beach locations where the pieces have washed up, which has actually provided some useful data about ocean currents. They note that now, 25 years later, they're still getting some floating pieces, but they're also starting to see some of the pieces that sank, but have now managed to make their way to the coastline. Generally speaking, they've been traveling northward up the coast of England over time, but a few have even been found as far away as the Texas coast.
What? Wow.
Like it went all the way across the Atlantic, supposedly. They admit that it's sometimes hard to prove whether a stray Lego on the beach came from the spill or was just left there by a child who brought it. They have some dates of like, oh, this piece stopped being made, so it must be really old, but it's iffy. Unfortunately, there are some drawbacks to dumping 5 million tiny pieces of plastic into the ocean. They take a long time to break down, of course, but according to the American Chemical Society, they also release harmful chemicals, which can disrupt animal reproduction. One group of scientists recently analyzed some of the weathered beach Legos using X-ray fluorescence, and based on how little they've degraded so far, they estimate that it will take up to 1,300 years for them to completely disappear from the ocean. Unless people go pick them all up first. I mean, every time they wash up on a beach and somebody takes it as a souvenir, that does help.
True.
And, honestly, Legos are expensive. So if you want some free ones, apparently you just got to go visit the beaches in Cornwall. They're all there.
Yeah, I mean, those salty Legos got to be worth a lot.
Yeah, of course, once money gets involved, now you're going to have counterfeits. Like, people are going to be soaking their Legos in salt water.
We should just figure out some way to get people to think that oil spills are rare.
Oh, there you go.
Problem solved. Yeah, don't actually do that, though. That is a severe health hazard.
Right.
Should be left to professionals. I just have to disclaim that, just in case.
Right. Next link.
Next link.
This article comes to us from theconversation.com. It's titled Walt Disney's Radical Vision for a New Kind of City. So, the version of Epcot visitors encounter at Disney World, currently in the midst of its 50th anniversary celebrations, is actually hardly what Walt Disney imagined. In 1966, Disney announced his intention to build Epcot, which was an acronym for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, which I had no idea.
Whoa, like a biodome, basically.
Yeah, and it was not to be a mere theme park, but as Disney put it, the creation of a living blueprint for the future unlike any place else in the world. An entire new city built from scratch.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Disney died later that year, and his vision was scaled down and then scrapped altogether.
And then they just said, we'll make it a theme park. Like, we're not going to actually have people live here, but,
Yeah, exactly. So the author of this article has been writing a book on urban idealism in America, and they're drawn to this planned community. So we're going to get a little bit of the backstory behind what it could have been. So, a captivating 25-minute film produced by Walt Disney Enterprises remains the best window into Walt's vision, and it's linked in this article if you'd like to look it up. In it, Disney, speaking kindly and slowly, as if to a group of children, detailed what would become of the 27,400 acres or 43 square miles of Central Florida that he'd acquired. Echoing the rhetoric of American pioneers, he noted how abundance of land was the key. Here he could achieve all that could not be done at Disneyland, his first theme park in Anaheim, California, that opened in 1955 and had since been encroached upon by rapid suburban development. He proudly pointed out that the land on which Disney World would be built was twice the size of the island of Manhattan and 5 times larger than Disneyland's Magic Kingdom. Among the remarkable components of Disney's Epcot would be a community of 20,000 residents living in neighborhoods that would double as a showcase of industrial and civic ingenuity.
Whoa. A
running experiment in planning, building design, management, and governance. There'd be a 1,000-acre office park for developing new technologies, and when, say, an innovation in refrigerator design would be developed, every household in Epcot would be the first to receive and test the product before it was released for the rest of the world. An airport would enable anyone to fly directly to Disney World, while a vacation land would provide resort accommodations for visitors. A central arrival complex included a 30-story hotel and convention center, with the downtown featuring a weather-protected zone of themed shops. Epcot's more modest wage earners would be able to live nearby in a ring of high-rise apartment buildings, and there would be a park belt and recreational zone surrounding this downtown area, separating the low-density cul-de-sac neighborhoods beyond that would house the majority of residents. There would be no unemployment, and it was not to be a retirement community. And this is kind of interesting to me because it really feels like in modernity we've kind of just given up on any sort of idealism.
Well, I wouldn't say that's necessarily correct because especially here in Austin, Texas, we are seeing something similar with Elon Musk's solar neighborhood. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah, but I don't trust Elon Musk.
And you trust Disney?
No, I don't trust Disney either.
It's never the sane ones who are planning these mass cities.
Yeah, and maybe we're coming on to a new cycle of this because back in the 1960s, the aspiration of building a new was much in the air. Americans were becoming increasingly concerned about the well-being of the nation's cities and were unsatisfied with the effort and consequences of urban renewal. Families continued to move into suburbs, but planners, opinion leaders, and even ordinary citizens raised concerns about consuming so much land for low-density development. Sprawl, as a pejorative term for poorly planned development, was gaining currency as a fledgling environmental movement emerged. Meanwhile, real estate entrepreneur Robert E. Simon sold New York's Carnegie Hall and with his earnings bought 6,700 acres of farmland outside of Washington so he could create Reston, Virginia. 50 miles away, shopping center developer James Roos started planning Columbia, Maryland, and oil industry investor George P. Mitchell would soon take advantage of a new federal funding program and embark on establishing the Woodlands near Houston, which today has a population of 100,000 people. And I know the Woodlands.
Yeah.
It's right in Texas. Here.
I've been there. I didn't
area.
realize it had such a history. It's just a suburb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Kingwood as well, which is another suburb that's also outside of Houston, was one of these planned communities that I think Exxon dreamed up because they needed to have a place for all of their employees. And
Right.
Yeah. So these new towns hope to incorporate the liveliness and diversities of cities while retaining the intimacy of neighborhoods and other charms associated with small towns. Disney, however, didn't want to simply spruce up existing suburbs. He wanted to upend pre-existing notions of how a city could be built and run. An important innovation was the banishing of the automobile. A vast underground system was designed to enable cars to arrive, park, or buzz underneath the city without being seen. A separate underground layer would accommodate trucks and service functions, and visitors would traverse the entire 12-mile length of Disney World and all of its attractions on a high-speed monorail, far more extensive than anything achieved at Disneyland.
Monorail.
Yeah. Which, when you start bringing public transport into it and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of sweet. I mean, we've been talking about an underground transit layer for decades,
Yeah.
and maybe this is why.
Yeah, if you're an American, you ever travel overseas, coming back to our public transportation is such a sadness.
Just a massive depressing,
It's so horrible.
Yeah. Today, Disney's utopian spirit is alive and well, maybe. You see it in former Walmart executive Mark Lohr's ambitions to build a 5 million person city called Tolosa in a U.S. desert and Blockchain's LLC proposal for a self-governing smart city in Nevada. But more often, you'll see that efforts tap into the nostalgia of a bucolic past. The Disney Corporation did, in fact, develop a town during the 1990s on one of its Florida land holdings. Dubbed Celebration, it was initially heralded as an exemplar of the turn-of-the-century movement called New Urbanism. However, Celebration has no monorail or underground transport networks, no hub of technological innovation, or policies like universal employment. So that sort of city of tomorrow, it seems, will have to wait.
Yeah, it's basically a retirement community. It's a bunch of old people now. They don't have to drive because they can't drive. I suppose there's that. But
I mean, all of my sort of casual understanding of architecture, urban planning, and how cities build is it's all supposed to be very organic. You have to work with what you have. You have to work with the people you have, the culture, the resources.
Yeah, but that's a very respecting ecology and socio conditions. And if you are a single-minded billionaire who wants to control an entire city and make Sims your life.
Yeah, that's always the tricky thing is if you don't put a hard fist on it, you end up with everybody just sort of doing what they want and it all falls apart. But on the flip side, if you have that tight control, you've basically just created the modern version of a company town where everybody is fully indebted to you. And now you've got the potential for this horrible types of abuse that we saw back when company towns were very much a thing. So, we're screwed either way, I guess. I don't know.
Next link.
Next link.
Well, Vice has an article. Some custom Legos of Zelensky and Molotov cocktails have raised significant funds for Ukraine.
Oh.
What?
Have you guys heard of Citizen Brick?
No. Wait, so like Molotov cocktails that are Legos.
And there are pictures. So if you go to Motherboard by Vice, I highly recommend it. I do have to say that since the publication of this article, they have predictably sold out.
Sure.
But it's a custom Lego store in Chicago, and they're selling these custom design Legos modeled after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Molotov cocktails. All the proceeds went to a charity that provides medical aid to Ukraine and the surrounding countries. But if you are still interested in the other stuff they have, it's kind of amazing. For example, for $25, you can get a Carrie minifig complete with the blood and everything. You can get a knife-wielding Green Beret or even a Squid Game player.
Wow.
They even have accessory Lego pieces like packs of cigarettes, condoms, and bandaged heads that allow Lego fans to live out fantasies that don't always go down with Lego's corporate image.
But this is, like, supported by Lego. Like, they're using the Lego terminology.
Yeah, I don't know how the licensing works here at all, and I'm a little leery to shut this place down. Although, you know, with the amount of press they've gotten, they've already been around for a while, but...
Yeah, if Lego didn't know about them before, they certainly know about them now.
There you go. And, you know, maybe 100% of the sale of those particular items going to direct relief to assist with medical supplies. It's an interesting PR war if they decide to go to war, which would be the worst thing considering what the... Anyway, right. I'm in circles, but... Yeah, according to Citizen Brick, it sold out and raised, I think, over $16,000, which was at the time of this publication. Wow. Quote, we're scrambling to make another batch because this got picked up on the Ukrainian Instagram page. So, yeah, it went super viral. And they're not the only group selling imagery of the war to raise money for charity. There is a St. Javelin charity that has raised over $1 million for direct humanitarian aid to Ukraine by selling t-shirts, stickers, flags, and patches decorated with a Christian saint clutching an FGM 148 Javelin anti-tank missile launcher.
I mean, I guess they've always had pirates with little blunderbusses and swords. Like, I can't really make a justification of this is an old-fashioned weapon, this is a new weapon, they're somehow different, but that does feel weird.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
It's no longer abstracted, and especially with, if you go through the rest of their offerings, you can get specific helmet types related to specific countries and even war periods. So I did peek at the website. They have one called, I think, like Real American. Pretty sure it's a Hulk Hogan minifig. So I'm just saying, if you like Lego and you want to check it out, Citizen Brick, keep your eyes posted. Maybe they'll have more Molotov cocktails. Next link?
Next link.
All right. Well, I have kind of a quick one here. It's from Yahoo News, and it's called A Rare Lego Piece Found at Pennsylvania Goodwill Set to Sell for Over $18,000.
Hot dang.
And nearly all of it is contained in the headline. Basically, a Goodwill warehouse in Dubois, Pennsylvania, received, as they often do, a box of jewelry that had been sorted out of larger donations at various stores and then sent to the warehouse to post for auction on shopgoodwill.com, which is what Goodwill does with all of their jewelry these days and basically anything that isn't clothes or dishes. And in the box was a teeny tiny little mask, which they couldn't really figure out what kind of jewelry it was supposed to be, but they tested it and it was 14 karat gold. So they opened the bidding on it at $14.95, which is slightly less than the melt value of something that size. And immediately the bid skyrocketed, at which point they were like, maybe we should try to figure out what this thing is. And it turns out that the little mask is a rare Lego piece called a Bionicle Golden Kanohi Hao mask, of which only about 30 exist in the world. They were originally gifted to some Lego employees in 2001, and a few more were given away as prizes, but they were obviously more of a commemorative thing than a real Lego piece, which are not normally made out of 14 karat gold. Now, up to this point, no item had ever sold on shopgoodwill.com for more than $5,000. And this Lego piece initially closed its auction at $33,000.
Whoa.
Unfortunately, the original winning bidder was unable to pay, So the item was relisted and just recently closed again at $18,101.
Listen, you find a way to make that first payment when you win it the first time. Good gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it might have just been a kid. Like, they might not have had any idea.
Yeah, I can see that.
And this does still make it the most expensive Goodwill item ever purchased by a long shot. And assuming the sale goes through, it will also make it the most expensive Lego piece ever sold, but only by about $3,000.
What?
You can actually see a whole list of the most expensive Lego pieces ever sold on brickfact.com, which is kind of a weird top 10 list because the first two underneath the Bionicle mask are a solid gold Lego brick for $15,000 that was, again, a commemorative piece given to employees in Germany in the 1980s after they had worked for the company for 25 years. And then you get a solid gold minifigure for about $7,000 that was actually sold to the public in 2013, but only 5,000 of them were made. After that, we drop way down to a plastic curved windscreen that averages about $200 at auction. So it's a big range. They've got a few solid gold pieces, and then there's regular rare Lego pieces that normal people might pay for. But, $200 isn't nothing. You can go check out brickfact.com if you think you might have some rare Lego pieces in your collection. I don't, I'm sure, but we do have a lot sitting around the house. I might check them out.
You don't know for sure. You just have to go through each one by one, and check.
Yeah, exactly. That won't be time consuming.
And so that's the most expensive thing sold, right? But not necessarily the most expensive thing found at a Goodwill. Because I think they found like an old Roman statue or something like that not too long ago. A bust of a statue that ended up being nearly priceless.
Yeah, but didn't they have to give that back? Like when it's a historical item, I don't think they can sell it.
I guess you're right. Yeah. But when does this Lego thing become a historical?
Right. The ancient Bionicle culture. I mean, it has made me reconsider. Like, these were mostly things that were given to employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have some old corporate merch that I'm still hanging on to in the thought that, like, maybe someday it'll be rare.
Like a tote bag or something?
Well, no. So, like, in the 2000s, I worked on a video game called Turok Evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Which was supposed to be like this big splash for the company, and it wasn't. It lost a ton of money. And so I'm thinking it might become famous in the same way that E.T. for Atari is, where they had to bury like tens of thousands of them out in the desert. But I have a jacket with the logo on it, and I have this little like plastic first aid kit that's fully branded, and it's got like Band-Aids and whatever. And it was basically like, when you get bitten by a dinosaur, pat yourself up. Like, the whole thing was bizarre. And I was like, this is so weird. It might someday be worth something.
Yeah, I've watched enough Antiques Roadshow to know that you are probably right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if any listeners want to pay me for it, the bidding's open. Like, I'm available.
Let the negotiations begin.
Exactly. I'm not giving it to Goodwill, that's for sure. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this bonus episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. As always, if you like our podcast and want to support us and get episodes a day early as a special treat, you can do so at patreon.com/damninterestingweek. In the meantime, my name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And we hope you have a damn interesting week. Bye-bye.